heavyweight division, two guys that badly need a win, two guys at the same stage of their respective careers. I think it's going to be good.
What happens when an unstoppable pressure fighter meets? One man is built like a tank, throws non-stop punches, and drags fights into chaos. The other is calm, calculated, and trained to make elite opponents miss by inches.
Fight in the heavyweight division, two guys that badly need a win, two guys at the same stage of their respective careers. I think this is going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one because, look, Big Baby is better on the front foot, and he just promised right now in front of Pero that he's going to be throwing 70, 80 punches around. He's going to have to do that against the Cuban style in Pero, who can box and he can bang as well from that southpaw stance. Both of them are...
Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Lenier Pero isn't just a heavyweight fight. It's a test of two completely different boxing identities. Because in this fight, someone is going to lose their rhythm, someone is going to lose their plan, and someone might get completely broken mentally before the final bell even rings. So the real question is, can Miller turn skill into survival mode chaos? Or does Pero expose every weakness in Miller's pressure game?
Yeah, no, he comes from that Cuban school of boxing, but he puts his hands up. He likes putting pressure on fighters. And Miller, he's going to be punching at those gloves. Strong fighter. Who's going to budge as far as on the front foot? Both these guys are front foot fighters. Who's going to want to go and get the aggression, win the rounds? And whoever takes the better punch as well. Both these fighters, you know, we want to get tested and see how they take that punch, especially Big Baby Miller, who's coming off a draw, a knockout loss, and a struggling split decision win.
What did you think of the way?
This fight is interesting because it's not just styles, it's philosophies of boxing colliding. Miller is not your typical heavyweight boxer. He doesn't fight with finesse. He fights with volume. Constant punches, heavy forward pressure, wearing opponents down mentally and physically. When Miller is at his best, he doesn't let you breathe. He turns boxing into survival. But there's a truth about Miller. When he can't bully you, he becomes ordinary.
To show respect, Miller's taking his hair off.
Fits well. Inside and dig away to the body. You take that away from him, just being on the outside, and pick him up with that jab.
Opportunities against guys like Adamek, against Bogdan-Dinu, guys that, you know, Jarrell Miller's overwhelmed with his volume. That's what earned him that opportunity against Anthony Joshua in 2019. Good right hand there.
Yeah, now he's stepping back, getting some space and throwing shots. This is the Miller we want to see.
Good right there, double up that right hand, right to the body.
Pero represents a completely different school. Cuban boxing is built on distance control, defensive positioning, ring IQ, and making opponents miss and pay. Pero doesn't rush fights. He adjusts. And most importantly, he stays calm under pressure. So we have pressure versus precision, chaos versus control. This is why this matchup is dangerous for both men.
Body puncher. That punch to Victor Faust, one of the strangest knockouts I've seen, where it looked like he broke the ribs of Faust, and Faust was almost stunned at what happened in real time.
Yeah, he didn't even go down, Chris. He just turned his back and walked over the ropes and put his arms up.
And when you break bones in a boxing ring, it's so unexpected, and it's such a strange feeling. You see guys do weird things when that happens. The head movement so slick. Makes you just miss by centimeters. Good body shot on the inside there.
Miller can throw punches in waves. Not explosive single shots, but constant output. Jab, jab, hook, body shot, clinch, repeat. That style breaks rhythm. And rhythm is everything for a fighter like Pero.
Shots. This is the Miller we want to see.
Good right there, double up that right hand, right to the body.
And eBay taking a knee.
eBay is exhausted. He's exhausted when they really push him down, and it takes a lot of energy to get up.
Miller just teeing off on the body. And he's winning these rounds by doing it. Something from eBay. And now they try to sit down their punches.
But here's the problem. Miller's style requires high stamina, high pace control, and mental discipline. And historically, Those are the areas where he becomes vulnerable late in fights. When Miller slows down, his defense drops, his feet get heavy, and his pressure becomes predictable. And against a sharp boxer like Pero, that's dangerous.
He's already thrown more punches the first 5 seconds than he did in the first round as eBay backs him up.
eBay's not intimidated, right?
Well, you heard his trainer saying he's just a big fat guy. But if he go beat his ass. I'm not sure he has yet, but he's doing better than Miller. He just shoves eBay out of the way momentarily as eBay's letting his hands go.
Body language for Miller these first couple of rounds, just a little bit off.
I agree.
Is it coming off? What is happening here? It is.
Oh, wow.
He's losing his hair.
Lenier Pero doesn't walk into fights looking for chaos. He walks in looking for control. Because for him, everything starts with distance. If Miller can't get close, he can't work. And that's where Pero builds his fight, behind a sharp, disciplined jab that keeps everything at arm's length. Every step Miller takes forward has to be measured, because if he gets comfortable on the inside, the fight changes completely.
I'm gonna beat that ass, right?
You're so
Hang it on.
You know my
I'm gonna
level.
beat that ass.
You know my level.
You know I'm gonna beat that ass, right?
I'm number one.
There you can't run.
I talk in the ring.
Once I hit that chin, it's one
talk in
time.
the
It's
ring.
one time. That's it. So I need one punch.
Okay.
Good
night.
night, Bobby.
Yeah, good
Tranquilo,
night,
Bobby.
guys. You were
Night,
dancing
night.
salsa
Night,
in
night.
the ring.
Night,
You
night.
were.
Night, night.
But Pero isn't just standing still and jabbing. He's moving, not in straight lines, but in angles. Small pivots, subtle resets, little shifts that make aggressive fighters feel like they're chasing shadows. 1 second they think they're close, the next, they're back at range again, reset, frustrated off balance.
Oh, beautiful counter. Man, was that a perfectly timed shot from Pero.
Yeah, dipped his head to the inside, threw the right hook, punched with Johnson, caught him with that right hand, right on the chin. Thompson, excuse me.
And going right back down to the body, Lenier Pero. This is something that Bob Santos has been drilling into Pero since he started working with him in the pro ranks. Just keep being committed to the body. It'll pay dividends later in the fight.
And that frustration is exactly what Pero wants. Because when Miller starts forcing the fight, overcommitting, swinging a little too wide, or rushing in with pressure, that's when Pero opens his counters. He doesn't panic. He doesn't trade. He touches, lands clean, and gets out immediately. No exchanges, no brawling, no staying in danger longer than he has to.
Just something that was not really planned, but we kind of took it and ran with the ball, and it worked out in our favor. Kingsley was not a walkover, was not a pushover. He gave me a run for my money. But the grace of God, I take a ugly win over a good loss any day. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's what we had to do. We got the win on to the next level. Pereiro called me out a few months ago before that, which I was kind of shocking to, but didn't want that fight in New York at first. So now this came around again. I think you gave him a couple more dollars now. So now he's biting the bait. So I'm going to whoop his ass real good come April 25th.
But here's where the real tension of the fight lives. This entire system only works if Pero stays disciplined. Because all it takes is one lapse, one moment where he stays in the pocket too long, one exchange where he tries to prove something instead of sticking to the plan. Can Miller keep the same intensity for 10 to 12 rounds without fading into a walking target? Because if he can't, Pero will start taking over the fight.
Very, very important fight for the division. April 25th, the Fontainebleau Resort in Las Vegas, live and exclusive on DAZN around the world. As we said before, this man who has become one of the most talked about heavyweights or athletes or sportsmen on the planet, Jarrell Miller, against the WBA #2, Lenier Pero. This fight, an official eliminator for the WBA World Heavyweight title. Of course, it wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be here.
This fight won't be decided in one punch. It will be decided in pace control. If Miller controls pace, Miller wins. If Pero controls pace, Pero wins. So the real battle is who controls the rhythm of the fight. Because once rhythm is gone, boxing becomes survival.
How does Jarrell Miller beat Pero? Well, for him to win the fight, he has to go downhill. Miller is not a master technician. He's a big physical guy who likes to put pressure on people, break them down, and throw a lot of punches. He needs to throw a lot of punches. He needs to cut the distance, and he needs to put his big body on Pero and tire him out. That is his path to victory.
Every pressure fighter has a breaking point. For Miller, it usually shows in subtle ways. Punches slow down, output becomes predictable, and this is where Pero becomes dangerous. Because he doesn't rush. He waits. He starts picking cleaner shots. He makes Miller miss more. And missing in heavyweight boxing is exhausting.
Roll, baby. Back in camp, baby. News coming in the next 2-3 days. You're going to hear some great news about my man, Lenier Pero. Back in camp, baby. Heavyweight boxing ain't nothing better.
If Pero survives the early storm, he starts to take over mentally. And once a Cuban boxer gains confidence, the fight becomes a technical clinic.
As Lenier Pero, bottom preview and bottom prediction for the WBA heavyweight title eliminator between these two. And yeah, for me, a lot of people, the betting odds have made Jarrell Miller a massive favourite in this fight. I completely disagree. Because if you look at both fighters, I think Pero's got more skill set than Jarrell Miller, personally.
Miller cannot win a clean boxing match. He has to win a war. His only real path is start fast, overwhelm early, force clinches, make it physical, win by accumulation or late stoppage. But that requires perfect conditioning, no pacing mistakes, no mental drop-offs, and that's where doubt comes in.
That's what you would do.
I smell pussy on ice with me.
That's what you would do.
You know
I know you. I know what
I want to fight Deontay, and he said no. You never will fight me. You told Deontay that? Come on, bro.
But that's between you
Come
and Waldo.
on, bro. Okay, I'm trying to tell you. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you.
You don't know me, bro.
I'm talking about
Look
you.
at my record.
I've
Who
been
have I
bro.
done? Who have I done?
What do you mean?
For Pero, this fight is not about skill. It's about discipline. His only real danger is getting dragged into a firefight because Miller is at his best when opponents lose patience. If Pero starts trading, if he starts standing still, if he tries to prove something, that's when Miller becomes dangerous.
I don't know, though. I'm not seeing that so far from Pero.
He's not working that hard. Thompson hasn't forced the action enough that you can guarantee that Pero is going to get tired. Also not touching the body.
Yeah, that Gomez fight against Travius Ingram earlier tonight was a brilliant fight. This crowd loved it. It ended up being a draw. Early the Monday afterwards and see what I can do in the boxing ring.
So let's bring it all together. This fight is not about hype. It's about identity. If Miller turns it into a war early, he has a real chance to break Pero. But if Pero survives the storm, the fight slowly shifts into his control. And once that happens, it becomes very hard for a pressure fighter like Miller to reset the momentum.
Vegas. Yeah, it was coming up for 7 years ago. You know, the infamous AJ fight. A lot's happened. You know, time is a great healer, and I've always liked Jarrell. I mean, I think he's a great character. I think he's a very talented fighter. You know, and I think he's taken his licks, if you like. You know, not just over that period, but also on January 31st as well. And I think when he comes in shape, he's a real threat to the heavyweight division. But can he come in shape? You know, we've seen it time and time again. Sometimes he does, and I think the Andy Ruiz was a great example of that. I thought he beat Andy Ruiz quite comfortably that night. I thought he was robbed of that victory. And then against Kingsley eBay on a 5 or 6 week camp, you see he comes in out of shape, and that's the kind of performance you get. By the way, he ground out a good victory that night in what could have been the end of his career.
This fight comes down to one question. Can pressure beat patience at heavyweight? Because if patience survives the storm, skill usually wins.